Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Established Run's NBA Injury Report Analysis Show. I'm Drew Dinkmeyer here with Mike Gallagher to walk you through today's 9-game slate, the last slate of games before the trade deadline. As a reminder, we will have a trade deadline special tomorrow at 3:30 Eastern Time on this YouTube channel. Myself and Mike Gallagher, perhaps other ETR NBA members of the team will join in as well. We'll break down the trades, talk about DFS, season-long, and championship playoff implications on all those deals. But tonight, the madness. There could be a lot of madness on tonight's slate with the trade deadline looming. I think most likely trades are going to get finalized tomorrow as opposed to tonight. But you could see situations where players that are involved in trade rumors mysteriously sit tonight, mysteriously ruled out, so on and so forth. We've seen funky rotations over the last few weeks with guys like Bones Highland, who no longer plays for Denver, just as an example. So we'll try to talk through and cover some of the different angles of these. We'll go kind of game by game and try to quickly cover some of the trade notes as well as injury notes. With all that, Mike, you ready for the trade deadline?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
All right, let's start game by game. Let's start with the Detroit side of things. No injuries to report here. They are a team that should be selling assets. They seem unlikely to, based on the way that they've handled their business the last few years. The big name that people would think should be traded is Bojan Bogdanovic, but there hasn't really been much buzz around him. Are there any players on the Detroit side of things that you would be more interested in monitoring tonight or less likely to invest in because of trade concerns?
I think Alec Burks tops the list. The other guys don't, and Sadiq Bey's something to watch, but I think every time I hear Sadiq Bey's come up, it's very much a pipe dream. Like you hear the Warriors want him, the Knicks want him. What are you gonna give up? Maybe I think the Warriors could give up something, but so Bey would be the next on my list. But as you said, even the buzz on Boyan hasn't even. There's been buzz, but the buzz has been they're not trading him.
Right.
So apparently he's gonna be staying, but. Don't know if I buy that entirely. I should note they changed their defensive schemes a little bit. They're running a little more switch. We were really attacking them with ball handlers, so it's not as good. We'll see if that holds up. Certainly could just be a one-time thing, but I just want to note that. Expecting them to start with double big lineup again. So Jaden Ivey, Alec Burks, assuming he's a go. Boyans, Beastu, and Jalen Duren starting against the Cleveland Bigs.
All right. They are playing Cleveland tonight, as you note. Cleveland had two questionable notes on the injury report that I think were both added today. Donovan Mitchell with a left groin soreness and Darius Garland with right thumb soreness. Karis LeVert missed last game, was on the injury report. Ricky Rubio missed last game. It was a back-to-back injury maintenance. Garland and Mitchell both on the injury report in a home game against Detroit. Certainly a little bit alarming. Any news or notes here on the Cleveland backcourt?
Yeah, not back to back, right? So that's a little weird. Maybe they're just kind of resting him up. We'll see. Certainly legit injuries. We've seen Garland this time with that thumb injury. We've seen Mitchell get managed with his groin injury. Quick hooks when they're up big, shorter rotations. Minutes have spiked occasionally, but yeah, definitely a chance they sit. Certainly could be a Karis LeVert show there, but and then maybe we see a little bit more Rubio, maybe we see a little bit more Jedi Osman, some bigger lineups. See Dean Wade out there. You see him play some three. So I think it's probably a one situation where only one of them is going to sit. I would certainly say Mitchell's more likely to sit, given that it's a soft tissue injury. He could be, still dealing with it. It's certainly a thing where you got to manage more. Where thumb is probably like a maintenance thing. Like he's not going to aggravate his thumb injury, most likely. Unless he has contact with or something. So I would say Garland's much more likely to play than Mitchell is. But I think there's a chance Mitchell misses, which again would really open up Garland if he does go. And just trade stuff, very little to add. I mean, this team is pretty much kind of locked in, unless they pull something out of the blue. But I haven't heard anything.
I think we may have lost connection with your mic there. I think we're getting computer audio at this point in time. Still can hear you.
It's my AirPods. That's my.
There we go. For quality perspective. All right, Charlotte. Let's move to Charlotte. No questionable tags on the injury report tonight. They're a team that obviously should be considering deals as well. They're still obviously without Kelly Oubre, Cody Martin. They're without their G League guys. Mason Plumlee is the main name that's been bantied about. I think it's kind of a clear situation where, like, if if they're going to have any funny business with him, he's just not going to play tonight, and he'll be ruled out, and it's an early game, and it's not really a big deal to deal with. I don't think there's many situations where he'd like play and then have his minutes managed mid-game. We've seen some of that stuff very rarely over the years. Harrison Barnes, the most notable example back when he was in Dallas, but it seems pretty straightforward to me that if he's starting and playing, you can expect fairly normal minutes from Mason Plumlee tonight.
Yeah, he definitely could be shut down. That's something to watch, as you mentioned. I think you kind of covered it, but yeah, expecting him to start the way they have been. Hayward's minutes are back up. We saw the minutes extended last week, so yeah, I think his name has popped up a little bit. PJ Washington, I'd probably rank him second, and then Rozier third, and then Hayward. I just don't think there's a market for him. So, but yeah, definitely a team that they're 15-40. Certainly makes a ton of sense to unload players. Plumlee is got to be one of the top five. I think one of the top five. Besides the obvious guys, Crowder, etc. Feels very likely to get traded today or tomorrow.
Yeah, they are playing Washington. Washington does have a number of players on the injury report. Bradley Beal and Kyle Kuzma came into the day questionable, and then they added Monte Morris with back tightness. That's always a concerning midday add, the back tightness label. Kyle Kuzma, left ankle sprain. Bradley Beal, left foot soreness. Any read on their availability tonight for the Wizards? A team that is still, trying to move their way into play-in potential, a team that has historically really balked at the idea of kind of tanking and tearing things down. So a team that feels less likely to have, much on the trade buzz that would impact their rotations outside of maybe Will Barton, who hasn't really been playing for them. What are your thoughts on the Wiz availability tonight?
Yeah, so injury stuff, I feel Kyle Kuzma is probably the most likely player to miss. Did not practice. Really very little signs he's going to play, both from the practice report and from Wes Unseld. Bradley Beal, we thought he was going to play. The information evidence was there, and just a peel behind the curtain, we were actually considering taking some bets, assuming he was in. I was like, better not, because it was a new injury. We saw him out with a hamstring, listed with the foot. We saw that back-to-back game off, missed the Monday game. But all signs from Unseld are he's going to be back. We will not be firing into this situation for sure. But and then Monty, new injury, back thing, midday downgrade, certainly something to watch. We saw DeJuan Wright get the start last time. He would almost certainly get it again and pick up pretty big minutes there as he would be on LaMelo duty, which I wouldn't be too concerned about. Well, I almost covered Boyd, but yeah, that would be probably a lot of minutes. They probably play him a bunch. And then trade buzz. Not a whole lot. The Kuzma stuff seems super unlikely. This team doesn't want to trade. Comments from Ted Leonsis over the years saying they don't want to tank. So would not expect much trade-wise there.
Let's move to Philly and Boston. On the injury side of things, Joel Embiid is listed questionable once again. It's been a pretty common tag. It seems like Philadelphia is just going to keep with this tag perhaps the rest of the year. Would expect Daryl Morey to be active around the trade deadline, but usually around kind of the back end of the roster and pieces. I don't think we'll see any sort of big moves from Philadelphia. They've been playing pretty good basketball on the whole. What's your read on Embiid's availability tonight?
Same thing, expecting him to play. Certainly, big national TV game. Probably going to go. I can't imagine he wouldn't, given he's played against really bad teams over the years. Should note, he's had some struggles against this Boston front court. He had one good game against them last year, scored 41, but that was with Ennis Freedom in the starting lineup. So certainly take that one with a big old tablespoon of salt. Yeah, so expecting him to go. The questionable tags got added, we'll talk about in a second. But yeah, Korkmaz is really the only guy who's got buzz. There was some buzz on Tobias like early in the year, just from a fit perspective, bringing in Melton and etc. But Tobias has been great. He's kind of redefined himself, picks up on-ball stuff. The matchups are actually interesting because Tobias guards on-ball stuff a lot. And I think they might put Tobias on either Derek White or even Brown, and then put Harden on Horford. It's kind of something they've been doing a little bit more. So the matchups have been pretty interesting there. So I'm excited, very excited for this game. Hopefully everyone plays.
Well, you did mention questionable tags picked up for Boston there. You mentioned Embiid's one good game came when they were without their main bigs. On the injury report today, questionable Al Horford, right knee swelling, and Robert Williams with the left ankle sprain, both listed as questionable. Jaylen Brown, who missed last game, is listed as available with that illness, that non-COVID illness. So we should see Jaylen Brown back tonight. But the front court, kind of a big deal, specifically in this matchup against Joel Embiid. Any read on Horford or Time Lord Robert Williams tonight?
I believe Robert Williams is the same ankle. I'm just checking that super quick. That cost him, I believe, a game. Yeah. So should be good. Got downgraded from a probable tag, which is not great. So a little bit more concerned about Williams. Part of me thinks this is just you're listing Embiid questionable. Let's list our guys questionable too. We'll be petty boys as well. But we're talking about Horford, who they manage a lot, misses back-to-back games. Robert Williams certainly going to be managed given the history of him. So despite my jokes there, definitely keep your eyes peeled there. But I would say they're much less likely to play than Embiid is.
Yeah, if they are unable to go, Grant Williams has been a guy who's benefited a lot in the past. Whenever they're shorthanded with one of these two guys, his minutes really spike. But he's also been a guy that's been popping up in trade rumors, which is interesting. The Bill Simmons theories on I don't know if they're Bill Simmons theories. I guess they're Pat Riley's theories that Bill Simmons then further espoused with the disease of me, and winning. The Celtics look like a title team. Grant Williams is a really important part of that, but there are some reports that Grant Williams views himself as a really solid starting level player in the NBA and wants to be paid accordingly. So there's some trade buzz around him. I would be shocked if he ends up getting moved just based on how good they are right now. And I just don't think he'd give up that window. But it's an interesting dynamic when you've got Horford and Robert Williams both questionable tonight, and he's the guy who's picked up the minutes mostly in the past, but then you've got a matchup with Embiid that kind of demands a bigger body to put in there against Embiid. So if they were shorthanded without Horford or Robert Williams tonight, how do you think things would go?
Yeah, probably one more Grant, right? I think that makes sense. They could go a different route. I think you want more size overall to kind of load up a little bit. But I like I said, I think Time Lord's a little more likely to miss. They're not in a back-to-back, so it's just interesting timing to get downgraded for an injury that was already there. But not great.
All right. Let's move to Indy and Miami. On the Indy side of things, they have 3 players listed questionable tonight: Kendall Brown, Chris Duarte, Trevlin Queen. Kendall Brown and Trevlin Queen have been getting this tag as the G League questionable guys for a while. Duarte's got left ankle soreness that he's dealing with. There is some trade buzz as always with Indiana around Buddy Hield, Miles Turner, those guys. Turner seems unlikely. The Hield Turner combination to the Lakers seems very unlikely, given it's been rumored for a long time here. What are your thoughts on Duarte's availability, and then anybody we need to be paying attention to or monitoring for Indy from a trade perspective?
Expecting Duarte to go full practice, quote a full go, according to Carlisle, so should be out there. Minutes have been pretty cut hard. I'm expecting him to be out there. I don't know if he's even going to play. Ben Matherin's been one of the best zone killers in the NBA on like 35 possessions. He's like 1.4 points per possession, which is really good. For even a non-rookie, it's like top 10. Something to note there. And just noting Tyrese, and then just with the trade stuff, Hield's a guy to watch, right? Just to free Benny Mathurin, my guy, let him get 35 minutes. Hield will have to go away there. They obviously love Andrew Nembhard for their one-on-one rule. And I do want to note Tyrese Halliburton, who's been very much both sides of the spectrum here. 2 games ago, 1-point game. Last game, career high 43-point game. Huge down the stretch as well. So excited to see how Halliburton responds there, but definitely expecting Hields to be out there today. I think they don't want to really trade him. I think they're going to kind of wait for a team to offer something. See, I honestly, just to getting ahead of myself here, I think teams are just waiting for OG, man. They want to figure out what happens with him.
Or
Van
Vliet.
I think OG is so much likely to get more traded than Van Vliet is, which we'll get to. But I feel like just to add, I feel like most of the stuff we're talking about is going to be a waste of time. No offense to us, but we do want to just give you guys the stuff.
Yep.
Just to keep you guys prepared.
All right, they're playing the Miami Heat. The Heat are very shorthanded. They're without Victor Oladipo, Duncan Robinson, Kyle Lowry, Nikola Jovic. They traded Dwayne Dedmon, so they were down a body there. They recalled they signed a 10-day contract to Bouye, I think it was his name, who I don't know very much about. We are projecting an 8-man rotation with a little bit of Jamal Cain as the 9th man because they're so shorthanded here. It's possible I think the highest they'd play tonight is 9, but I think it's very possible they just play 8. They've been comfortable playing just 8 for a while. So no Kyle Lowry, no Duncan Robinson, no Victor Oladipo. How do things shake out for the Heat tonight?
Yeah, Orlando Robinson's going to play through his thumb injury. He's supposed to miss a month. Not coincidentally, so he's going to play through the pain, and Dwayne Dedmon's gone. So
yeah,
picking up a pick, and basically the pick didn't matter. The only thing they picked up was a trade exception, which is interesting on 2 fronts. One, it sets up for something tomorrow. But 2, you're not getting back as much money if you want to put a bigger deal together using his salary. So kind of a bit of an aside that was an interesting move from Miami, who we know they're going to be active. And there's been a lot of buzz on Lowry, a lot of buzz on Duncan. These guys are obviously out. We haven't heard any buzz on Hero, but if there's a big swing, we could definitely see something there. But again, not expecting too much. Max Strus also, his name's kind of come around here. Miami, it's kind of all hands are off. I don't think Caleb Martin's like really unlikely to get traded because his contract's so good. And to build the team they want to build, to have another on-ball defender, I think it makes like very little sense to trade him. But obviously Jimmy and Bam are the cornerstones of this team. But yeah, as you mentioned, pretty tight rotation. Gabe probable. We saw him have the Q tag last time, played normal minutes, looks good. He'll probably get the I would expect him to probably pick on most of the Halliburton stuff. Not so much Caleb, but be a little bit mixed bag though.
Basically, from a minutes expectation, this box score in front of you from the last game look fairly realistic around where we're at. Maybe Haywood Highsmith 31 off the bench is a little bit tough to replicate, but fairly similar is what you'd expect.
Yeah, for the most part. Yeah, the Highsmith stuff. Maybe Caleb had Giannis for a decent bit, avoided foul trouble, but the rotation's a little bit shorter for him. But yeah, generally should be pretty tight. I mean, like you said, they're going to probably at most have 9.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move to San Antonio, where, man, there's just a ton of injuries to cover on the San Antonio side of things. They're without Trey Jones, Romeo Langford, Jeremy Sohan, Devin Vassell, Dwayne Dedmon, who they just traded for. They're without the G League guys, Dominic Barlow and Charles Bassey. And then they've got Keldon Johnson listed questionable here. They're going into Toronto. We've seen the San Antonio, they got blown out by the Bulls. Their main guys in the starting lineup still got into the upper 20s and low 30s despite the blowout, but they ended up playing 11 guys in that game with Dominic Barlow getting 6 at the end there. I don't know that they have that many guys this game to be able to get up there when they're so shorthanded here. And there's trade buzz, of course, on Jakob Poeltl, Josh Richardson, Doug McDermott, a lot of these guys. So it's a really messy situation to deal with, maybe the messiest on the slate, especially if Keldon Johnson is unable to go. He's been playing through this questionable tag of late. What are your thoughts here on San Antonio?
Yeah, keep your eye on Jakob Poeltl. Certainly makes very little sense to keep him. He's going to be getting paid big money. I think the Spurs know that doesn't make sense for the way their organization timeline is. He's going to probably command a big contract. We'll see what kind of market he gets for a traditional big man who doesn't space the floor. We talk about this being the running back position for football, but yeah, Malachi rides again, so I'm expecting a big role from him. Josh Richardson, keep an eye on him. Trade rumors there. We've been seeing a little bit of Blake Wesley, Malachi Branham overlap. I wouldn't be surprised if Richardson gets shut down before the deadline. Seems a little bit unlikely. Poeltl as well, so they could be really thin. If I think Keldon's playing, and I would add Keldon's pretty unlikely to get traded. There was some buzz earlier in this year. As well that you could get traded, but yeah, expecting the starting lineup of same as you see on screen: Branham, J. Rich, Keldon, Keita Bates-Diop, and Poeltl. Unless something crazy happens, maybe we see Zach Collins start, and we've seen Barlow play some small ball 5 minutes as well. But if he's out,
Barlow's currently ruled out with the G League. That obviously could change.
Yeah, he could change. Yeah.
But that he's currently ruled out. I think the big note here is, if you see anything funky where Josh Richardson or Jakob Poeltl are not in the starting lineup, be alarmed and assume that there's a decent chance that these guys aren't playing at all, especially Poeltl. Poeltl would be shocking. Richardson, they've messed around with, so they could. But if he wasn't
can't
starting,
play him though. Yeah,
if he wasn't starting, that would be a really big red flag. So be prepared there. And then the guys, if they were without those guys, the guys who would obviously benefit, Zach Collins and Malachi Branham, they'd be like the last big and the last guard left. Blake Wesley would obviously have to play a decent bit as well in those scenarios. Okay. On the other side, you mentioned Toronto. OG Anunoby still listed out with the left wrist sprain. Otto Porter out for the season, of course. A lot of trade buzz on Toronto. Fred VanVleet, Pascal Siakam, OG Anunoby. Nothing. I don't think anything that would impact tonight's game.
I agree.
I think if there was anything to happen on Siakam or VanVleet, it would happen tomorrow, would 100%. Be my guess. And OG, who's more likely for something to happen, he's not expected to play anyway. So I don't think there's much to talk about here on Toronto's side. If you have any other notes, otherwise we can kind of push through because I don't expect any trade issues here.
Yeah, just to add to your point, I mean, if Masai's taking a big swing, he ain't taking it today, man. I don't think he wants to trade OG in just trade OG situation. If he wants to, and to add to that too, I think the Raptors think they can still compete. They've actually been playing a lot of really tough teams. They've been playing them really tight. We saw them blow that game against Golden State. They've been losing close games. Their offense has been fixed. Their offense has been playing really well lately. So I think they believe that they could make a run. But yeah, I just echo your sentiment. And I actually covered with VanVleet, knowing that there's some risk to this. But I feel pretty confident that he's going to play. The matchup's too good, so I feel pretty good about it. And VanVleet's role's been insanely good. 22 drives per game over his last 4, 19 per his last 8. He's really been cutting into Siakam's role as a guy that breaks down defenses. So very into VanVleet today. Maybe people don't play him because they're scared of a trade, but I am not.
Let's move to the Sacramento-Houston game. These two teams played last time out. De'Aaron Fox is back for Sacramento, so they've got nobody on the injury report to worry about. Mm-hmm. I don't think there's anything on the trade report to worry about with them, so we can move past them pretty quickly. On the Houston side, Kevin Porter Jr. still remains out. Garrison Matthews questionable, but as we noted before, he's kind of like very fringy in terms of being in the rotation anyway, and so not a real big concern there. The Rockets do have plenty of guys to talk about in terms of trade buzz. Eric Gordon, Jayshawn Tate, Kenyon Martin Jr. Those three guys have been talked about all year long, really, in terms of potential trade buzz. So beware. I think Gordon's the guy that Gordon or Martin you would get a read on if they're not in the starting lineup. I think that would be a very clear read that something's up and be careful. Tate, you're not going to get a read on, but I don't think you're playing Tate anyway. So it's just a matter of if you want to take the shot on if Tate is out, that would help guys like Tari Eason, guys like Kenyon Martin Jr., so on and so forth. I think we'll get clarity here, but those are my notes on Houston. What are yours?
Only thing I'll add is if Tate's starting, for Martin or Eric Gordon, then maybe
showcase time.
Yeah, but yeah. So that's the only thing I'll add. But yeah, everything you nailed.
Okay, let's move to Minnesota and Utah. Minnesota on the second night of a back-to-back here. Kyle Anderson did not play last night. They have not filed, so we don't know what their injury report is going to look like. We can guess there's going to be a lot of questionable tags because that's how Minnesota goes these days. Rudy Gobert, Kyle Anderson, and Jordan McLaughlin were the three guys listed yesterday as questionable. Kyle Anderson did not make it, did not play. There's trade buzz around some of the secondary pieces here as they try to rearrange deck chairs. What are your thoughts on Minnesota tonight and what should we be watching out for?
Yeah, we know we're going to get questionable tags on Kyle Anderson. I would say he's the most likely player to miss. We're going to get a questionable tag on Rudy Gobert, who only played 19 minutes last night. They got run out of the gym last night by the Nuggets. So I think he's going to get Q tag. I'd expect him to play. Maybe get a P tag. Jaden McDaniels has been playing through some injuries. Taurean Prince is playing through that ankle thing, so maybe probable or questionable tags on them. Jordan McLaughlin returning from a calf injury. He's on a back-to-back. Minutes were light yesterday. Probably getting a Q tag. I think that covers it. I think we can expect D'Lo in. Got ejected. Some trade buzz on him. It's kind of went away a little bit. And we've seen him get the Q tag a while ago, but that's gone away. So expecting him to be out there. Trade stuff. Naz Reid is extension eligible next year, and they can't afford him, man. They have just too much money committed to Gobert and Towns that you can't pay a guy. I would say market value is $8 to $10 million a year. You can't afford to pay a guy that with other issues on your roster. So I think Naz Reid's someone to watch as a trade candidate. Same with Jalen Noel. It just feels like he's
it's interesting that he started over Taurean Prince yesterday.
Yeah, that was very surprising.
You could say it's matchup. You could say it's wanting to give teams a look at him at the 4. Like there's some things you could speculate on there. But yeah,
he didn't start the second half. They started because it just went so bad.
Yeah. We should also note last night in the NBA, just an incredible statistical accomplishment from the greatest player in the history of the league. Jokic got a first half triple-double yesterday.
Well done. Well done.
No hate on LeBron. No hate on LeBron.
Yeah. Second fastest triple-double of all time for playing time. The first is Jokic, of course. He's got 1 and 2.
That's wild. All right, let's move to Utah. It's the schedule makers really have a good laugh at this one, right? They're scheduling Utah and Minnesota on the day before the trade deadline, and we've got on the Utah side Jared Vanderbilt questionable. He has not been playing of late. He did go through shoot around today, they said, I believe. So I guess maybe there's a chance that he's going to play, but I have no idea why he would at this point. He's the name that's most rumored about in trade stuff. We've seen the minutes ceiling improve for Kelly Olynyk, Walker Kessler, and Malik Beasley. Almost said Michael Beasley. Malik Beasley in Vanderbilt's absence. What are your thoughts on his availability tonight? Do you think we keep the same kind of status quo of late with Vanderbilt sitting out these games until they get past the trade deadline?
He can't play, right? I mean, back spasms, certainly an injury that can creep up, or back injury, whatever it is. So I think he's going to sit. But yeah, I think it's worth noting just for matchup that Lauri Markkanen is probably going to guard Ant. We saw them put they put Vanderbilt on Ant a lot in the last game. They didn't have Markkanen in either of the games. Just to note that. But expecting the same starting lineup. If Vanderbilt's playing, it's very little. So, but yeah, other trade buzz. Keep an eye on Malik Beasley. We've seen his name pop up. Certainly a desired piece, catch and shoot guy. Team option next year as well. That's really helpful for how you want to play it next year. If Malik works out or doesn't, and it's a cheap deal too because he signed that contract when he had some off court stuff, so he got signed under market. But yeah, other than that, Olynyk's buzz has been quiet, but definitely a team to watch. We know Danny Ainge may not be messing around here. And should add the Clarkson stuff. There's buzz on Ryan Smith, the owner, really liking Clarkson, but hey, it makes sense to trade him, I think. But something just to keep an eye on there.
Yeah. Let's move to Dallas and the Clippers. Dallas, no Luka tonight. We'll get Kyrie Irving's debut with Dallas. There's obviously a lot of trade buzz around Dallas because they make this big trade and then you look at the pieces and they don't really fit. So there's more things to potentially see here. You've mentioned Christian Wood from the start as a potential trade target now. He came off the bench last game in his return and only played 19 minutes. Were there any quotes around if there were limitations there? Because that was a very strange role. He'd only missed a game or two before that. It wasn't a long layoff from an injury perspective, right? So what are your thoughts here with Dallas?
He had multiple practices. So I think it was just poor play. I mean, you could put the tinfoil hat on and say, oh yeah, they want to keep his minutes down. Yeah. But I think that's all it was. He just didn't play well. Their second unit wasn't very good. There was the game kind of out of hand a little bit late, so I think that's why. But I think he's getting traded, man. I mean, they haven't signed. He's been extension eligible. Hasn't happened. You're signing more offense. You need more defense. You need a rim protector. He's a really nasty fit. So I think he's, I would say pretty likely to get traded. I guess pretty likely means 60%. But something to watch for sure. I'm not playing him. I have zero interest to play him, but other stuff. Tim Hardaway Jr. Same thought. You want more defense. You gave up Dorian Finney-Smith. You traded for offense. I don't think they're going to trade Hardy. They seem to really like him. But hey, if the right deal comes, I could see him getting traded. If you're a bad team, I mean, he's exactly what you want, right? ISO scorer can get his own offense. Really, really raw. Really, really young. That could be a really nice.
Are you starting the Hardy for Plumlee rumors? Is that what's happening here?
No, you would need more than that, I think. But I'm just saying he's that's a pretty nice trade chip if they are on something like OG or something like that. I don't even know if they could pull that, but they've got position. They've got some things to move if they want to make another move, which I kind of think they need to.
What are your expectations?
Listen to our recent podcast on the topic.
What are your expectations on starters here for Dallas? Kyrie, I assume, just slides in over McKinley Wright.
Yeah.
And they go with the same starters here with Hardaway, Bullock, Powell, and Josh Green.
Yep. Expecting Bullock to get Kawhi. We saw Bullock get Lauri Markkanen in the last game, so I'm expecting Paul George to get Josh Green. So I actually like the matchup better for Paul George, despite how Green's been playing better. So expecting, as you mentioned,
an
Kyrie,
awesome win for Dallas last game.
Really big win,
without Luka in Utah. Those guys played really hard and played really, really well. So shout out to them. On the other side, the Clippers. The injury report for the Clippers has been super clean, and I feel like knocking on wood every single time I say this, because it's been like 2 weeks now with no Paul George and no Kawhi Leonard listed at all. It's been awesome. Kawhi's looked a lot like the old Kawhi. John Wall's the only injury listed. He's out. There has been trade buzz around the Clippers, but it's mostly been around the periphery players that just the salaries can add up to go get some other piece. And it seems like they're looking at point guard. We've heard them rumored with Kyrie. We've heard them rumored with Kyle Lowry. I assume they would be on someone like Van Vliet as well if they could make those types of things happen. So the guys who are most vulnerable, the guys who make some money and have contracts that could match up, Reggie Jackson, Luke Kennard, Terrence Mann, they've all seen reduced roles of late with the exception of Terrence Mann, who's kind of seen a fairly static role. But those would be the guys to monitor tonight. Any other notes for the Clippers?
No, that's it.
Okay. Let's talk Golden State and Portland. On the Golden State side, they are still without Steph Curry. They are constantly in trade rumors because of this 2 timelines thing. So what are your expectations on the Warriors tonight? And who do you think they start? They went back to Kuminga in the smaller starting lineup last game against Oklahoma City. The matchup tonight against Portland with no Jusuf Nurkic could lead to a small ball fest as well.
I feel pretty good as Kuminga. Comments from Chris saying they like the extra spacing. We saw not many minutes out of Kuminga in the starting lineup. Played a bit more in the second half, but yeah, I think he's going to start Kuminga again. Feel pretty good about that. But the Warriors are, kind of snakes in the grass, DeMarcus Cousins style. With we don't really know what they're going to do. So something could definitely come out of the blue. I don't think they're going to trade Kuminga. Could see Moody. Could see Wiseman. That's pretty much it. That's really all the chips they have. I don't think they're going to trade their main guys. But expecting Kuminga to start.
What do you think they should do at this point? Because I'm kind of the belief that they gave the 2 timelines thing a shot this year. Kuminga, Moody, and Weissman have not shown anything that makes me think that the second timeline is worth a damn.
I would push back on Kuminga a little bit, but Moody and Weissman for sure.
Well, but I'm saying if those 3 guys are along with Poole, right? If that's the next wave, I don't think he got much. I don't think he got much there. So I would, for me, and these guys have killed their trade value, so I don't think you can get anything substantial with them. And I think what they're probably looking at is we don't want to sell at a low on these guys. But what I'd be looking at is you've got the window is closing, and these guys deserve one last push. And without Steph for a few weeks, they need a push in the regular season to try to get them through. If I were them, I'd be making a deal with one of these guys. 100%. And I get that the risk is you sacrificing the future. I just haven't seen enough from Moody or Weissman to suggest that they are the part that they are worth the future. It's to get Weissman specifically to be a good NBA basketball player, it's going to take a lot of lean years of him playing a lot. 2 or 3 lean years of him playing a lot is my lean.
Yep. Who would you want? I would want a wing. What would you want?
Yeah, but I'm also I love Kevon Looney, so I don't think Looney and Dre I think is fine as your bigs. And JaMychal Green can be the spare big. I would want another wing if I was.
A lot of the Warriors stuff I've been checking out, they want Jalen McDaniels, Hornets McDaniels, which I think is great. I completely agree.
Yeah, I can just imagine Charlotte trading for another project center to add to the mix. Okay, on the other side, Portland, another team that's heavily involved in trade rumors. Drew Eubanks listed probable. They're without Jusuf Nurkic here. So it's obviously kind of important that Drew Eubanks is available. Keon Johnson also listed as questionable. A lot of trade buzz around Josh Hart. That seems to be the name that's been popping up the most of late. What are your thoughts here on, first, is Eubanks good to go? Are they fine there? And secondly, what would you be monitoring from a trade perspective tonight on Portland?
Yeah, Eubanks has been playing through this back thing. Powell tag should be good to go. Galaxy brain though. I wouldn't be surprised if this game plays really small. Maybe not start, but I wouldn't be surprised if they close with GP2 in a small ball lineup, granted at the 5. So just something to watch. But yeah, pretty straightforward injury report. Obviously, Dane's been just killing it. He's actually fared pretty poorly against Wiggins, so not the best matchup for Dame today.
All right. I think that'll do it. We got through relatively, 35 minutes, not too bad. We will be on tonight on playback.tv/ETR. You can watch and sweat the games with us starting at 10 o'clock Eastern time tonight. We'll go around the league with games that are closing from that perspective, sweating bets, sweating props. We'll see what kind of prop card we're able to line up tonight. The Q tags and the trade buzz make it challenging to put props together, but we'll see what we can. And of course, we'll always look to find live bets there. Last show was a live betting disaster. Luka got hurt in the game. We just kept firing away at the Suns, and the Suns could not take care of business without Luka. But we will see if we can find opportunities for live betting tonight. Myself, Mike Gallagher, Chris Lafikis. Mike and Chris will kick off the show at 10. I will hop on shortly thereafter when I get back from tennis tonight. But join us there. As always, please support the people who are supporting us. This show is brought to you by our friends at Underdog Fantasy. They have daily NBA snake drafts for money running in addition to many formats of NFL contests for the big game. If you're playing NBA Pick'em, in-season subscribers can use our tool to compare ETR projections to their fantasy Pick'em games. If you haven't signed up for Underdog yet, we use promo code ETR for a matching deposit bonus up to $100. That's promo code ETR at underdogfantasy.com. 5 o'clock Eastern today, myself and Mike Gallagher will be talking about this slate from a DFS perspective behind the paywall. Get all the news and notes from Mike's matchups column translated to the DFS slate tonight. Get the flag plants and all behind the paywall. Join us there, 5 o'clock Eastern. If you're not interested, as always, in giving us your hard-earned dollars, we do ask for your hard-earned clicks. Subscribe to this YouTube channel, get notifications whenever we go live, including tomorrow at 3:30 Eastern with a trade deadline special edition that will be following this 2 o'clock Eastern injury report analysis show tomorrow. So join us for 2 shows tomorrow. Join us for another free show tonight behind the not behind the paywall with Playback TV, where we flip around the league. Catch us for all this great content, and of course, smash that like button, feed the algorithm, help us feed our families, and we'll keep feeding you the injury report analysis information you need to make your DFS lineups and prop bets. Nom 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 nom. See you tonight and tomorrow with more trade deadline talk from us at Established Run. Take care, everybody.